With us in the studio is the star of that video, Sister Mary Paul McCaughey, who is the superintendent of Catholic Schools. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here, Andrew.
Also with us is Peter de Keratry, who is with the Teach Who Christ Is capital campaign. We'll be talking more about that.
Hello, Andrew. It's great to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Sister, what's going on right now? We're starting schools.
We are definitely starting school, and that frivolous piece that you saw, I have never before or since will I ever pay Candy Crush again. But I guess for the adults who would be watching, for the adult version, just how grateful we are to have their children starting school again in places where faith and learning are really our main focus. And what a grateful thing we are to our principals, to our teachers, to getting this school year started with such verve.
What's going on with Catholic schools in terms of, the Office for Catholic Schools, new initiatives that are in place?
I think for the Office of Catholic Schools, we want to stay focused on not only continuing to create that Catholic culture, dealing with being places of peace, anti-racism, having a sense of reverence and dignity for the human person, really teaching the faith with integrity, and then paired with that and flowing from that, actually a strong academic piece. And this year we're having all of our schools accredited through the advanced ed process, which is very detailed, very demanding, a lot of data, a lot of growth and continuous school improvement. So we're very grateful. So schools at every end of the achievement spectrum will be challenged to grow.
Okay. Now you had mentioned some anti-racism work. We recently had the Office for Racial Justice has closed, and much of that work is now being taken in new directions, and among them is with Catholic schools and the work that the principals have been involved in. How is that going to move forward?
Well, I think the principals have for years been committed to social justice, and so we are going to have a standing committee for social justice within our schools that'll not only look at hiring and unloading of employees, but also just look at the school culture again, the reverence and the human dignity that's needed, interventions that are needed. It isn't just anti-bullying. It's really being the face of Christ for one another. So how do we do that? And we've been very grateful to the racism transition team. We have principals who are very interested in broad-based, those type of broad-based initiatives. And we're actually meeting for the first time with the steering committee with them next week, and then again with our entire Archdiocesan Principal Association the week after. So we'll hopefully be shaping programs that will be impact the schools for years to come.
Sure. So the work continues.
So it has to continue because the face of Christ is ever shifting, huh?
Yes.
And I think we need to always recognize that.
Okay. So Peter, what's happening with this capital campaign to teach who Christ is?
Well, Andrew, the campaign is a 3-year effort that started about 18 months ago in the Archdiocese. It's a two-prong effort. One is based at the parishes, where every single parish in the Archdiocese will participate in the To Teach Who Christ Is campaign. Each parish will have its own program with its own goal, with its own needs, with its own defined priorities. And then a separate initiative and major gifts that the Cardinal and several volunteers in the Archdiocese are working on. I'm very pleased to tell you that at this point we're at $128 million in total funds raised. We have a long way to go, but we've come a very, very long way. The campaign itself is essentially first and foremost about parish needs. Each one of the individual parishes that are involved in the campaign will keep 60% of the money it raises up to its goal, and then over goal, 100% of funds raised will stay at the parish for locally defined needs. And that might be ministries and programs around education in the particular parish that we're talking about. It might be facility improvements or maintenance, parking lots, roofs. Many of our parishes are starting endowments to fund religious ed programs. So there's a lot of local-based needs at the parish level that the campaign will help solve. As I said, the parishes in aggregate have a goal of $250 million, and the major gift portion is another 150 for a total overall goal of $350 million. At the parish level, out of the $250 million that we seek to raise, $150 million of it will stay with local parishes. About 20% of the funds that they raise locally will go to an education scholarship endowment, which will fund scholarships to kids in school, in our Catholic schools throughout the Archdiocese. And the scholarship will go to the child. And we know that, and Sister Mary Paul can talk more to this, but there's shifting school enrollments, shifting schools' ability to stay open or closed over time. These scholarships are going to target the child individually. So
and they follow the child.
They will follow the child. So so people ask me all the time, why are we funding schools? Well, we're not. We're actually funding the child and the education of the child. So if a school does close over time, those funds will shift with that child to whatever new school that they might attend. But it's a wonderful program. In addition to supporting local parish needs and education scholarships, we'll also have a significant fund here in the Archdiocese which will help us with facility life safety issues at parishes. We simply have some massive facility structures in the Archdiocese that can't always be paid for at the local level. At this point, we know we have over 2,800 individual buildings in the Archdiocese. Just to give you one example, we know that there's over 140 structures owned by the Archdiocese just in the Pilsen neighborhood, 2 miles by 2 miles.
Wow.
Now that's a historic legacy of this diocese going back more than 100 years that has created this infrastructure. But the fact of the matter is we have to deal with those structures, and so we are creating a fund around life safety issues in particular to help make sure that those buildings are safe and appropriately maintained. There'll also be money for religious education. We're going to take some money for innovation in religious education. The religious education initiative around innovation is about going to go study what programs work really well in parishes here in the Archdiocese and around the country, and trying to replicate the very best of religious education programs in other parishes. The second part of religious education is that we know that we need funds to train a new generation of directors of religious education and religious education coordinators at parishes. Those DREs that have been there for many, many years are starting to retire, frankly, and we need to train a new generation of DREs for parishes, and that's what these funds will help do. There's also some money in for Sister Mary Paul and her leadership team to develop academic excellence in our schools, mostly targeting the idea of training leadership in new schools.
Leadership and integration of technology, things that will drive excellence within the program and actually be operationally fiscally sound.
Exactly.
Okay. Sister, how are the schools involved with this?
The schools are involved in developing what they call the local case to a lesser greater degree, but where the schools really do get involved is with that archdiocesan portion, where I can attest to the power of scholarships following the child, the power of opportunity for our young people and for their families. So hundreds of students and their families have already been a part of a pilot in terms of the Caritas programs with our expectation of the student to be a great kid, great scholar, and the parents to be supportive and the parents to keep up their end of the bargain and paying a half or more of the tuition has been very influential in shaping fiscal best practices and expectations and just opportunities at the local level. So even on a small scale, we're already seeing the impact of that, courtesy of a donor who said, I want to be somebody to seed this scholarship money.
Something that's just wonderful about that idea of funds following the child. It's so personalized, you know. It's really talking about human dignity. It's very particular, and it supports people.
And it's actually our theme, Andrew, in a whole school choice movement. It's a parent's right to educate their child where they wish to write them. And why couldn't a portion of those state funds be given to that parent to support the way they wish to educate their child? So it's that whole thing of parents' rights and making that choice I think is a very powerful message that we've yet quite in Illinois to get yet.
As I think about what Colleen and I are able to do as parents of 4 young children, just barely able to keep our head above the water. I mean, you know, it is not easy, right? I think every parent will attest that it's not an easy thing to raise 4 children. The culture of the Catholic community is something we absolutely want our kids to be part of. We want that wholesome, positive environment of community that is the church, that is the community of a Catholic school. The campaign is interesting because the campaign is not just raising money for the absolute poor to be in our school. And we know there are a lot of families who have low socioeconomic needs that would love to educate their children. We also know that there are a lot of middle-class families that want to educate their children in our schools, and it's almost cost prohibitive for them to do so as well. We all have a mortgage. We all have to go to the grocery store. We all have to pay the car insurance, everything that's part of the family life. And when you have two or three or four children going to a Catholic school, it is not an inexpensive process. So the goal of the campaign is to create this scholarship fund, this endowment. It's a separate endowment from the Archdiocese. It's called the Catholic Education Scholarship Trust. The trust is going to be managed as an endowment that will be invested over time, and it will spin off money every year from those investments. So if we raise the $150 million that we hope to raise in the campaign, roughly 5% distribution each year produces around $7.5 million. And let's say that those scholarships, as they're distributed about $1,500 per child, give or take. That might be as many as 5,000 individual kids across our system of schools that could benefit.
And to your point, everyone can benefit from this at a different level.
Absolutely.
So middle-income people are getting, our own teachers can't afford to put their kids in Catholic schools.
Right.
So it'll answer a lot of justice issues around the middle class who is just feeling like they're cut out. I think the other beautiful thing about the trust is a donor knows that that fund is going to be there in perpetuity, always used for the purpose to which they donate.
Absolutely. The trust is in itself a separate entity that is permanent for this single purpose, which is scholarships for kids in Catholic schools, regardless of the school.
Well, that's great. That's great. We want to encourage our viewers to learn more about Catholic schools by visiting schools.archchicago.org and get all the details about the ongoing To Teach Who Christ Is campaign by checking out toteachwhochrist.org. Thanks, Peter de Keratry of the To Teach Who Christ Is campaign for being with us and telling us all about that initiative. And Sister Mary Paul, I hope it's a great school year for you.
You too. Thank you for having us, Andrew.
It's always good to be with you.